Hey, so today on the Latin Leap series podcast, we have Natalia Salcedo from Meru, based in Mexico City. And my name is Isaac Watts. We just wanted to start the podcast off by asking Natalia to do a little introduction and tell us about herself.
So, hi to all. My name is Natalia Salcedo Franco. I'm original from Colombia. I have been living in Mexico for the past 6.5 years, and basically just running from one startup to another and launching Meru since 1 year ago. Yeah, as a B2B auto market for the automotive aftermarket.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about Meru and how you got the idea to start the company?
Yeah, of course. So Meru started first as a B2B for bringing anything from China. And then actually 1 year ago, it made a huge change of business model. So what we actually changed is that we want to be Mexico's next one-stop shop for auto parts. So becoming a platform that is optimizing the automotive aftermarket experience for mechanics. So at the end, it's how we can make repairing a car that is every time more easy, and that you can spend less time just waiting for your car to be repaired.
Awesome. And so how did you get the idea to start Meru? Was that come from an idea of a company already existing in the United States or over in Europe? How did
No,
that
actually,
come about?
actually, as Meru was bringing many things from China, auto parts was one of the highest margins product and also one of the product market fit that we were seeking for. So I began to study a little bit about the market and how big it was. And the result is that this aftermarket, just in Latin America, is around $450 billion, and just in Mexico is $125 billion. And one of the most amazing things is that all the industries that are actually based on China, they're coming here to Mexico. So at the end, the nearshoring is going to be every time easier to purchase all the different pieces that you need here in Mexico, and then also shipping them to entire Latin America. So the idea actually was like a turnover of the initial business model that Meru had. So we decided not to go very horizontal in a marketplace. So we decided to go just vertical.
Awesome. And how did Meru start out targeting customers? Like who was the original target customer for the brand and how has that evolved to where it is today?
Okay, as we started, of course, everyone was a client. Then as the business kept growing, what we started doing was many KYCs, understanding, okay, who's the one that is purchasing us? Who's the one that actually has the biggest issue that we're solving at this point? So as Meru is growing, our assortment is growing too. So one of the main things here is that doing procurement for mechanics is one of the hardest things that they can do. Just to give you just an example, in Mexico, you can find more than 140,000 suppliers. And if you want a piece, for example, a brake for the Nissan Sentra 2017, and then you want a brake for a Nissan Sentra 2013, it cannot be the same piece. So it's actually pretty different. And for mechanics to find out, okay, who's the one that can give me, one, the best price, second, actually have the product, and third, that can give it in the less amount of time, that we can receive it in the less amount of time. Actually, they can spend between 2 days and 7 days just in procurement. And then you can add another 5 days between you receiving the piece. So as we keep running these KYCs, we just find out that mechanics are our main consumer and our main target.
So do you have several partnerships that you work with directly, like auto mechanic brands in Mexico, or is it just direct to consumer mechanics in Mexico?
Yeah, we have the two type of partnerships. So, for example, as my previous experience, I work a lot with retail. For example, I co-founded a Joker. So I actually had the main idea of, okay, if you have the direct relationship with the brands, you can solve a lot of issues. So we started with, okay, which is the best product that we have at this point? And it is actually oil. Oil is one of our best sellers and actually drives around 50% of our sales. So we start going directly to the brands, for example, Roche France, Raloy, and many Bardal and many others. We go directly through them in order to get the best deal. And of course, as we have bigger volumes, we can get a better price for the mechanics.
That makes sense. So kind of along your path of entrepreneurship, how did like previous roles help prepare you for where you are now? I know that you took part of the team on Rappi, one of the most well-known Latin American brands. And how did that experience kind of form you and help you become the entrepreneur that you are today?
Of course. So actually, all my experiences have gave me one thing, and it's first be super resilient. Then also be aware that change is everywhere, and that you need to be open and open-minded to be aware of the change that you're facing. So one, just go with the change. And actually, that's something that I actually learned in all the startups. One of the best things that I actually learned from Rappi is how to solve everything fast. Okay, solve fast, think fast, but it's okay to make mistakes, that you can actually correct them. So learn from your mistakes. I think that it's the best thing that I have learned from all the startups and all the companies that have been there, and that you have actually time to correct them and to think in a solution. If you have to think fast on the different scenarios that can happen if the decision goes good or goes wrong.
Makes sense. So what do you think made you want to become an entrepreneur?
Okay, so one of the biggest things is, for example, my college. I went to the college named CESA, that is based in Colombia, that is Colegio de Estudios Superiores de Administración, and they are really focused on you and being an entrepreneur. So that's actually that was put there since I actually was around 18 to 19 years old. The thing is that first in my mind I was, okay, if I want to build my own company at one point, I have to know how a company runs and what are the different issues that you can actually that can happen, and the different scenarios, because that was something that I was not gonna learn in the hard times when I was actually trained to be an entrepreneur of 20 years old, of 22 years old. So actually I decided first to, okay, let's work for around 10 to 15 years, that would give me a lot of expertise in all the different areas. So I actually move along in different areas. I also love moving along different industries, and just doing those different movements have given me a lot of context that all the industries work similar. All the issues that you can find in an industry can happen in many of them. Of course, if you're talking about an industry of, I don't know, retail, of course, you're going to find some issues that are going to be different, for example, from the food industry. But at the end, the solution is the same. So you can find, okay, the one thing that I actually learned from working on airlines is how you do pricing. And it's super different, the pricing that you do on airlines as the pricing that you do, for example, in retail. So I actually try to merge both concepts and try to get the best part of them. So I think that's it.
Awesome. How do you think, as a CEO / entrepreneur, being the head of your company, you make the most impact? What are the most impactful decisions you make on a daily basis, and playing a role for the future in your startup?
Of course. So one is being super close to the people. I love being close to the people, and people actually just for me understanding that I don't have robots working for me. That's one of the best decisions that I actually have made. Just always be with the team. Try to understand, okay, what are the main issues that you are suffering and why? And try to find, okay, this is the root cause for all the issues that we're having. Just not give a little solution on one part of the problem. Just find the root cause, and then with that, find the solution. So one, being with people. Two, hire the correct talent, and being conscious that you're having the correct talent for the situation that you're having, and just thinking long term. Okay, if I bring this person can help me to solve this, and what else in the future? So one thing that actually startups do a little bit wrong is, okay, I have this issue at this point, so I have to bring, I don't know, 5 different people to solve this issue. And then 2 months later, they don't know what to do with those 5 people. So think on the long term on the people that you're hiring. That's one of the other decisions that I actually made, and one of the hugest mindsets that I have.
And kind of along that similar vein, what are kind of the most important factors when you're looking for hiring people?
Yeah. The first one and the most important is that they have the culture fit, the cultural fit. That is the most important. I don't mind having rock stars, but I like having rock stars with really good attitude. I don't like having rock stars with bad attitude, because at the end you're spending so much time with all these people that you need to find a really, really good environment for them to have. Not have any toxic relationships, not have anything like, okay, just because this is the friend of Natalia, just for example, you cannot say anything to them. So actually, today with me, actually, many people that has worked with me in the past is working with me now. And what I told them is, I'm gonna be more exigent with you. And what I expect for everyone on the company is to be more exigent with you, because you have been working with me for a pretty long time. So that would be it.
And how do you create a positive culture at your company? Like, what are some of those things that you actively try to do to foster, a positive team?
Well, the most important, as I just told you, is being really close to people.
Mm-hmm.
Try to understand, okay, what are the issues that they're facing on their personal lives. Try to see, okay, how you can actually help them, or just be someone that can hear them. For my experiences, I have lived many things, so actually I can actually listen to them on just being a little bit of a psychologist. Also, recognition. That's a really important thing. People want recognition. I mean, it doesn't mind if you say, no, I don't want recognition for anything. You, at the end, you want to know that you're doing the things right. And the other thing that I told my team, and that's something that we have in our veins, is that we have to be able to tell us everything that we're feeling. I mean, if you're doing something that perhaps is not the best decision at one point, just be open to receive feedback.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, we can actually grow a lot. So don't take anything personal. So those are the main three pillars in order for Meru or any other startup where I have worked to have a really, really good environment. Just to tell you a parenthesis, there is actually one of my past bosses that he used to tell me like, okay, you do something like I don't know what, but people actually love you and they follow you because that's it. So you have a lot of followers and we don't know what do you do. And at the end, this is the formula. And at one point, this boss actually saw in bad eyes that I actually have so many followers, because if I left any other the company or my role, they wanted to go with me.
Yeah, and I can definitely see that energy that you have that makes you a good leader. Um, what are some of the metrics that are most important for Meru that you keep kind of on hand, and in terms of like where are those metrics at today? And
Yeah. So for example, we measure a lot the EMPS. EMPS is one of the main pillars. So our EMPS result today is at 37%, and we're seeking to grow it up to 50%. This is because we have been doing a lot of changes internally. Other important metric, of course, is revenue, and it depends on how you measure revenue, right? So, for example, I measure revenue is the money that is just in the bank, the money that we receive. So, how we, at what point we deliver? So that's another metric. Of course, the customer satisfaction, that's the other one, and by the end is the NPS. So NPS for the seller, that it's actually putting their products on the marketplace that we have, the NPS for the people that are buying them, and the NPS for the mechanics that are using them.
and what are some important milestones that you see Meru achieving in the next 5 to 10 years? Where do you see kind of the trajectory of the company headed?
Well, what I hope is that Meru actually will have in revenue at around $1.3 billion. That's one of in the next 5 years. That is the first milestone that we want to get to. Of course, what I told you at the beginning, to become just the Mexico's and Latin America's next one-stop shop for auto parts. That
Mm-hmm.
is our main goal. For the next 5 years, becoming Mexico's next one-stop for auto parts, and for the next 10 years, just for all Latin America.
And what have been the biggest challenges up to this point in creating the company, and how did you kind of navigate solving those?
Yeah. So, well, the main issue is the supply chain for Meru, for example. For Meru is the supply chain, because how it is built in Mexico, it's super different than how it is built in the United States, or how it is built actually in Europe, but it's pretty similar how it is built in China. So we're following the path of China's automotive aftermarket that they have already passed from 2012 to 2023. So we're following one of the playbooks that it's going to the B2B to B2C by the O2O to O. So going to the offline to online to offline. Those are like those are the paths that we're trying to follow in order to achieve becoming the next one-stop shop for auto parts in Latin America.
Awesome. And I want to ask kind of, who have been your biggest mentors along this path of entrepreneurship that kind of helped you solve problems, or who you go to for advice?
Yeah, so I actually have three different mentors along my time, and actually I think there are more than three. So one of them, or my first big mentor, her name is Tamara Balonsky. Tamara was my boss at Groupon, and she actually showed me how you can solve different issues by just thinking outside the box, or sometimes not thinking outside the box, just going back to basics. So she was a really important figure in my path. She showed me how to think more in the business side. Another person was actually Sven Grajecki. He was one of the co-founders of Joker. He also was the CTO for SoftBank and the CTO and co-founder of Foodpanda. He was actually worked with them for around 2 years. He's one of the most, I will say, patient person that exists in the world, but also he's always with a really good smile. By a third part, I would say Oscar Salazar. He's one of the, actually, he's one of the investors that we have now. He's the co-founder of Uber. And for Things of Life, we met, and he's been a really good mentor. Of course, other people, for example, my dad, he was actually a really good influence in the way of work. My dad died when I was 18 years old, but I always remember all the things that he tried to teach me on business, even when I was pretty young. He was always telling me, just because you're a girl, it doesn't mean you're not being able. Many people, and specifically men, are gonna tell you that you're not gonna be able to do things just because you're a woman. And he was telling me always, that's not gonna happen to you. You need to navigate in this world by just being you.
That's amazing. And I guess kind of more on like the marketing side, how did you guys, when you were early starting out, how did you market to customers and kind of get awareness of the brand out as you were just starting out?
Yeah. So by the moment, we've been pretty quiet, because we first wanted to do some soft launch in order to understand, okay, if we go big, issues are going to be bigger. So what happens if we start launching small? So we're just doing the awareness. Like in the past 2 months, we have been starting doing more awareness than the one that we were having. So first, we just began in an offline guerrilla strategy. Just to put an example, we put hunters on the road, and they go and acquire customers, and then we start learning, okay, these are things that we're doing right, and these are things that we're doing wrong. So we need to keep doing the things that we're doing right at this moment. But what is going to happen when we have more than 100 customers? Is the operation going to resist? Is the supply chain going to resist? Okay, with how much time we need to be asking the suppliers that we need this amount of merchandise. So just starting small and then going big. Those are the things for the awareness that we're having. So by the moment, we're not doing much, because that's the mentality that I have. First, win Mexico City, then win the world.
And then what are your plans for expansion kind of following Mexico? Do you plan on branching out maybe to Colombia next, or Argentina, or what does that necessarily look like?
Perhaps we're not thinking on that. Of course, Colombia is an interesting market. Of course, I would love to go back home and launch Meru at my home, but that's not in our plans by the moment. Perhaps in I don't know, in a couple of years, we're going, of course, to Colombia, of course, to Argentina, of course, to Chile, Peru, Ecuador, and many other Latin American countries.
Awesome. And then kind of the final question, what are some pieces of advice you may have for aspiring entrepreneurs?
Yeah, so first get surrounded of people of quality, people that actually add value to you. And when I mean add value, it doesn't mean that this person can give you a lot of recommendations or networking. No, people that actually you can talk, and that person can be super honest with you. Be super receptive to the feedback. That's really important, but also understanding who's giving you the feedback. So I have actually met a lot of entrepreneurs that they have received feedback of 10 different people, and they're trying to do the feedback of those 10 people at the same time. So that's when you lose focus. So try to make a better filter of the feedback. And of course, everything has a solution. That's one of the main things that everyone needs to understand. Everything has a solution. Everything can be solved. So that's why I think perhaps I'm always having like a positive energy, because I know that it doesn't matter how big the issue is, it's always going to have a solution.
Yeah, and that's probably, an aspect that makes you a really great entrepreneur and can contribute to Meru's success moving forward. So thanks so much for spending the time with us on the Latin Leap podcast, and best wishes from us at Latin Leap. Good luck in Mexico City.
Thank you so much. Have a nice one.